Good morning and welcome to another edition of Power Talk. Power Talk is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited. During this program, we aim to share all of the latest updates and happenings and to keep the general public informed as to the changes that are taking place at SKELEC and all of the information that is necessary for you to be able to consume electricity responsibly. My name is Patrice Harris and I am the Corporate Communications Manager at SKELEC, and I am the host for this morning's edition of Power Talk. This morning, I am joined by a full house of gentlemen and one lady who are no strangers to this program. I will allow each of them to introduce themselves and then I will introduce the topic for today. So I will start with the lone lady on the panel and then we'll make our way up.
Good morning. My name is Isilma J. Isaac and I am the Debt Collection Supervisor at SKELEC.
Good morning, Isilma, and happy to have you on here with us today.
Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Ian Walters, Lead Tech for Metering Department.
Good morning, Mr. Waters. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi.
I should say you're known as Buckshan.
Better known as Buckshan. You see you're all formal today. So just in case, because everybody knows the infamous Buckshan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Colin Williams. I am the metering manager.
Good morning, Colin. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning to everyone. I am Superintendent Lyndon David of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force.
All right. Good morning, Superintendent David. You know, when we have the police with us, it's not to scare you, but it's to help us to reinforce a particular campaign and message that we are speaking about this morning. This morning in particular, we're speaking about electricity theft. Now, I know that electricity theft is common in a lot of different islands, but in St. Kitts and Nevis, we might not believe that electricity theft does occur here, but we're here to tell you that there are instances where we have found that electricity theft has taken place and continues to take place, and we want to use this radio program this morning to discourage members of the public from engaging in electricity theft. Not only is it illegal, but it is also very dangerous. There are so many safety hazards associated with stealing electricity, and that is why we want to have that conversation with you this morning. And SKELEC also loses money when you steal electricity from us because you don't pay for it, and we don't like that. So let's start the conversation by explaining to the public what exactly is considered electricity theft. What do we mean when we say electricity theft? And we're going to start off with Mr. Walters this morning.
Okay. In terms of electricity theft, there's a lot of different ways you could steal electricity. And one of these things we disconnect and you go into the meter and you bypass. That's one of the ways of stealing. There are other ways. There's another way that in terms of stealing, you can be disconnected and you could go to your neighbor and you could ask your neighbor to give you a feed, a supply. That's illegal. You are not supposed to. So automatically, that's two disconnections because the neighbor will get disconnected for giving you a supply. That should not happen.
And there's a fee for each person of $1,500 EC.
And the maximum is $5,000.
$10,000.
$10,000, okay.
Yes.
So if I am disconnected and I tamper with my meter, I figure out a way, I go on YouTube and I figure out a way and I get my power back, I'm stealing.
Yes, you're stealing.
And if I am disconnected and I ask my neighbor, please, and she send over the drop card over the fence, I'm stealing.
Your steal is not supposed
But
to.
she gave it to me.
That's illegal. You're not supposed to sell or give.
Right. So I'd like to jump in here. Morning, everyone, again. Generally speaking, any connection to the SKELEC grid that is unauthorized is illegal. And that broad statement and definition allows us to clearly say to the public that there is a process around connecting to the grid. And it's not just SKELEC. It begins with the other regulators, building and planning board and stuff like that. The grid is a sensitive asset of the Federation, specifically St. Kitts, that we all are beneficiaries of, and we have a responsibility to keep and protect. So the connections, as small as you may think it is, if it's not authorized, there may be consequences to yourself, to your own appliances, and in worst case scenarios, your health, if you do that connection without proper clearance and authorization. So any connection to the grid without proper authorization from the bodies, specifically SKELEC, is illegal.
All right, thank you for spelling that out. Superintendent David?
Yes, I think it's good for me to jump in at this time.
Yes, please.
We are looking at the St. Christopher Electricity Supply Act, which is chapter 16.01. And I will look at section 24. And it has 3 subsections. And it says fraudulent abstraction. So even though that we're looking at as theft, based on the law, it said abstraction. And I will just say what it says here. 1. Any person who maliciously or fraudulently abstracts, causes to be wasted or diverted, consumes or uses any electricity commits an offense of larceny and shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine of $5,000 and $100 for each day that the offense continues unabated, to imprisonment for a term of 2 years. 2. Where electricity is fraudulently abstracted by a corporation, so therefore we're not talking about individuals now. The corporation shall be liable to a fine of $10,000 and $225 for each day that the offense continues unabated. And 3. The provisions of subsection 1 and 2 shall not affect the right of the supplier to recover costs, as mentioned earlier, of the electricity that was unlawfully abstracted from a person who commits such an act. So in a nutshell, once persons do these things, and I will use the correct phrase that they'll use, abstract, they basically commit offenses, and we see where we have heavy financial penalties, and you also have penalty of imprisonment, especially for the individuals, whereas the corporation paid a heavier price of $10,000.
Correct.
So I take this opportunity to let persons know, let us support our primary electricity supplier and ensure that safety maintains all the way, and that they receive the necessary funding back from you for continuous supply.
So it's not just a matter of SKELEC not wanting you to access our electricity, but if you do so in an unauthorized way, it is illegal. And Superintendent David has outlined what the law, the statutes of this land has outlined. $5,000, up to $5,000 for an individual and a fee for each day, and $10,000 for a corporation. Plus, SKELEC still has the right to be able to recover the money that we would have lost because you were not being billed. So let's go to the metering team. Walk us through how you are able to identify some of these instances of theft. How are we able to identify when meters have been tampered with or when there is an illegal connection?
Before Mr. Walters give away trade secrets,
I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
Generally speaking, the investment that SKELEC makes into its grid is to safeguard its stability and quality of power. What we're doing in recent time will allow us, through technology, to detect consumption that is outside the boundaries of acceptable use. And when those alerts go off, then we issue our dispatch teams to check. And the primary purpose of those detective instance and detection is not to catch anyone stealing, but to ensure that there is no lost or issue on the grid that could potentially put the infrastructure at risk. Now, if we discover, and some of the things Mr. Walters would talk about, that way persons are diverting, according to the Act, from the infrastructure, what we see scares us. All right? From my personal experience, I went to a location to restore power, right? And the meter is disconnected, so I expect the meter base to be de-energized. That's the word we use. But the neighbor was helping his friend, his or her friend, and because of the safety protocols that we have in place, the so-called de-energized socket was active, energized. It was a risk for me because I'm not expecting power to be there. So if I had proceed, then I potentially would have been harmed, right? So both the neighbor and the person, and when I say it's laughable because the person eventually paid his bill, and we were in the process of reconnecting that person, and only to find that they have a abstraction going on, and it puts us at risk. It puts my team at risk because those connections tend to be using small wires, and we have instances where a fire breaks out because the connection was using a telephone line, because the person was trying to hide the connection and not knowing that they put themselves and and their appliances and home at risk. Mr. Waters can talk about some other instances. My final example, I went to a location, I took out the meter, and half of the building was still powered. And the person looked at me like, I don't know what is happening. It's not me, it's my son. I tried to tell him not to play with it. And literally, you're playing with the infrastructure, the stability, and you're playing with your life. So don't do that, Mr. Waters.
You basically have it covered.
I have it covered. Right.
If I could just continue something related to that, the meter. When I look at section 28, that deal with penalty for damaging meter and for reconnecting service line with meter without consent. And what it says here, A, any person who lawfully, fraudulently and recklessly removes, damages, or suffers to be removed or damage any meter, or alters the index of any meter, or prevents any meter from duly registering the quantity of electricity supply, or B, reconnects with a meter service line with meter which has been disconnected by a public supplier without the authority of the supplier, shall, without prejudice to any other right or remedy for the protection of the public supplier in question or the punishment of the offender, be guilty of an offense and liable and summary conviction for each offense to a fine not exceeding $10,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year. And 2, the prosecution of any offense under subsection 1 shall not prevent the public supplier from recovering the amount of any damage caused to the supplier by the commission of such offense. And if the offense is an offense under paragraph B of that subsection, the supplier may again disconnect the line at the meter. So therefore, what you said right now there is totally synced with the offenses created by the act. So definitely we have persons who are doing this. Stop it if you were disconnected and you face the penalty, and if you're doing it, best you disconnect and seek assistance from SKELEC, who is the public supplier at this time, and they will guide you accordingly to the process.
I wanted to have a conversation about persons who have been disconnected and find in their desperation very creative ways to get back on the grid. And we as a utility company, we are seriously discouraging that. I have Miss Isaac here with us, who is our debt collection supervisor, and I would like for her to walk the public through some of the options, the legal options that are available to you at SKELEC in order to, 1, prevent you from being disconnected, and 2, to aid you with being reconnected after this has happened, because we don't want the illegal option to seem like the more viable option to the public.
Okay, there are some persons that find themselves in a situation where their bills are extremely high, and for some of them it seems as if it's too hard to get rid of. So instead of just sitting back and saying, oh, I have a big bill and there's nothing I can do about it, they're going to disconnect me anyway, You can come in and have a conversation. We have 4 persons manning the debt collection department, and you can have a conversation with any one of us. If it's that you feel more comfortable with a specific person, you have that conversation. There are deferred payment arrangements that are available for persons with high balances. You would have to pay an initial amount. What we do have set amounts where you can pay half of the amount, you can pay 40%, 30%, or 20%. But we sometimes, because it's an individual basis, we sometimes have the conversation and we see how we can help that individual. So it's not anything that we cannot work around to ensure that the persons are willing and able to make payment. When the payment arrangement is put in place, what we need to remind customers is that you're going to have bills coming in, current bills that are coming in month after month. You're going to have to clear that amount, and the amount that is arranged on, you will have to do that amount as well. Because when you sign on the application, you're basically saying, I'm promising that every single month I'm going to pay the arranged amount plus my current bill. If you have an issue, as we know, life happens to everybody. If you have an issue, all that's needed is a phone call. We're not magicians. We are not psychics. We cannot sit in the office and know that you're having a situation. It's not that we're trying to mind your business. But it's easier to call and say, oh, Miss Isaac, I can't pay on the 15th, but I'll pay on the 25th. That's understandable. You're still going to make your payment. We will work with you. But if you sit down with your good intention and say, oh, yes, I'm going to pay my bill by the end of the month, we don't know. You would have had a bill from the last month or months prior. We don't know what you're thinking. We need to get your attention. And a lot of persons tend to change their numbers after they've done the arrangements. We need to be able to contact you either by phone or by email. If we can't reach you, there's some way we're going to have to get your attention. It is easier for us to call you, let you know what the situation is, and you come in and make a payment or have a conversation of a way forward, as opposed to us disconnect. It takes a lot out of us to disconnect. And so we also sign up persons for online payment. You can use our eBiz, you can use our IVR, and there are some persons that would say they're not computer savvy. We're never too busy to sit with a person on the phone or in person and go through the process. If it's that we have to sign you up personally, we will do that because we do it on a daily basis. It's not an issue. If you want to call in over the phone using the IVR, there's no problem. You can go to National Bank. While you're at the cashier, you give them your bill, you pay your bills there. It comes through to us. We have quick pay. It takes a couple of days, but yes, we will get the payment. It's just for you to exert the effort to say, this is what I plan to do. We're not going to be able to read your mind from miles away. You have to come with us. We will work with you. If we have to work out a budget for you, we will do that. That is what we are here for. We prefer to know that you're paying us bit by bit than for you to go and get disconnected and try to be a magician, and then we end up in problems.
Definitely. So it's important to address the ways that you could prevent being disconnected, and it's also important to address what happens sometimes when persons get disconnected. So I'll be the one to tell you that we are aware who is disconnected, and we do spot checks.
Oh, yes.
If we know that you are disconnected, and we have our teams driving around at night looking, if we see power in the home, that's an indication that there might be some electricity theft taking place. So don't think that you can get too far away from SKELEC and get too far away from the penalties when you decide to access electricity illegally. Now there's a question that I'm going to open to the panel about if I, as a owner of a home, if somebody is stealing electricity from me and I am not aware, how does that work, one? And what can I do to recognize what would be some of the indicators if that is taking place?
Well, there are persons that would come in to make high bill complaints. Some of them would say, my bill used to be in the $100, $200 range. It's now $5 and $6. And there is a fee for a high bill complaint, which is $250. But once that request is made, then we send the necessary paperwork to the technicians for them to do that. There are some persons that they would come in and say, oh, I was cleaning my yard the other day and I realized a pipe running from my house to the neighbor. There are some people that are that inventive. They would know that there's maybe an outlet on the outside of the neighbor's yard. and the person hardly goes around to that area. And they do their little magic, and when the person is out, and they would do their connections and whatever so that they get power. But at some point in time, no matter how long it lasts, everything comes to an end once it starts. And somebody's going to find it.
Thank you for that. Colin, you were going to mention something earlier.
Right. Ms. Isaac said a lot of beautiful things. My advice to all consumers is that it's your responsibility. And if you have a consumption that is growing beyond your financial capabilities and or is a spike that you don't expect, SKELEC is your energy partner. You ought to take advantage of our expertise and to ask a question. Listen, last month, or I'm seeing an increasingly high bill. What advice, what options do you have for me? Outside of the financial guidance and deferred payment and payment plan, the metering department, and we are responsible for that infrastructure, would assist in terms of doing an energy profile. As Ms. Isaac mentioned, there is a fee attached. But one of the things that we are looking to do in short order is to upgrade our system so that that level of detail is more readily available to our consumer so that they can see in terms from a data point how electricity is used. Like for instance, I'm also a SKELEC customer, right?
We all are.
And yes, we all are. Because that could have a problem in the room if that's not the case. I'm sorry. Yes, we all are. Let me reinforce that. And when we moved into the home, a couple months thereafter, I noticed that there were some spikes, not knowing that my sons were getting up in the night and using the toaster oven. And we have an agreement in terms of AC use. It's hot, right? They get an hour, and persons were not adhering to
To the hour.
But it shows up in the bill, and we want to assist our customer base in that regard. We had one consumer whose water heater element was faulty, so the electricity was being discharged through the water and running. So normally it would just heat up the water and stop. It was just charging continuously, and we saw that spike and we were able to prevent an explosion because it was converting the water to steam and building, and it was outside. I didn't know. So those indicators, once you have a bill that is high or is running away from you, come in and we can have the technical discussion and the financial discussion, as Ms. Isaac pointed out. But you have to act. You have to help us help you.
And it's not a fight. We get too many clients calling with a rage, and at the end of the day, after you basically have the conversation, it comes right down. It's like it dissipates. There's no need for the fight. It's just to ask a question. There are only two answers that you can get when you ask any question. It's either yes or no. But we try our best to assist you, and if we realize that it needs another department other than debt collection to get your matter sorted, we are going to do what we have to do to ensure that that happens.
Certainly. I'm going to take the opportunity now to open the phone lines while we continue the conversation. If you want to ask a question, if there is a report that you would like to make, we are free to take those calls now. So please feel free to give us a call. The phone lines are open. Now, we have callers. Okay. Woo. All right. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes, I got a problem, because every month me pay me bill. You understand? And you got some light up here in Freeman's Village. Almost 3 months now. I tired send message to Bouncing Boy, the manager. And I'm asking you, please, because a lot of old people around, and what's going on in the country. And next thing again, over there by the Moravian Church, the other night are coming up there, and some gangsters brush some Indians live over Shadwell. They were walking home. And I had to escort them up the road. Are you send one of your team to people ain't gonna always go and look for number and bring it to you? It's too much work as in SKELEC now. How long time ago these old men used to get it done and got the whole light up? Something wrong. Where the breakdown is? Supervisors are doing them work. Do the government work? I am setting out there. Imagine money ain't gone on Wednesday and I don't go in bank for money. Do I work? It's looking so bad in all government departments.
Carla, thank you so much. We have taken note. I've taken note of the two areas, the Moravian Church on Victoria Road and the lights in Freeman's Village. We did have a situation where we embarked on a new lighting projects and some of those lights did not have the lifespan that they were expected to have. As such, we had to procure new lights and continue to procure new lights. Every time we procure new lights, we go through them a bit faster than it takes for them to get here. So we know that there are global challenges with shipping, being able to get the products on island at the speed at which we need them, but rest assured that we continue to work through different solutions because we definitely don't want to have these instances continue. So I apologize on behalf of the company, and I will take note of, I have taken note of these two areas and I'll forward them to the relevant superintendent. All right, Jackie, do we have any other callers? All right, good morning, caller, you're live. Okay. Let's go to our next caller. Good morning, caller, you're live.
Yeah, good morning. I back Mr. Manners 100% of what he's saying. I used to call in from Fort Thomas Road about the lamppost. And I just talk about bring the number from off the post and this and that. I tell myself I'm not going to call it anymore about no more lampposts in Fort Thomas Road, even with the traffic. But I would like to find out from Mr. David. I noticed there is a public police mobile park up down when you went over the way from school. What purpose it's serving down there? I'd like to David to answer me, please, because the long time now I've been seeing it and nobody taking notice of it.
All right, thank you, caller. Superintendent David will answer offline. Let's take one more caller. Good morning, caller, you're live. Good morning, caller, you're live. We're gone. All right, Superintendent David, you want to address that question?
Okay, we continue to conduct our various operations to make our communities feel safe and safer, and we will be using different methods, and the posting of a mobile command post or command unit in a particular area is just one of these measures. So caller, this is just to provide the reassurance to the residents in that area of safety and security, and also of a deterrent. So we're hoping that persons appreciate the presence of the mobile command unit there and the work that the police are doing to make them feel safer. So thank you for that call, and I hope that my answer is one that makes you feel safer if you live in the area, and also appreciate our endeavors to ensure safety and security for our federation.
Thank you, Superintendent. To our colleagues here from SKELEC, a lot of times we are knowledgeable of the instances of electricity theft because, quite frankly, persons call in and report them. So how do persons, for other persons who might be seeing something, who think that something is a bit suspicious in their area, what numbers should they call, who should they reach out to, what type of report they should make as it relates to electricity theft?
Well, a lot of persons call through to the debt collection department because they figure that the person was disconnected, and so that's the unit that they should reach out to, which is not an issue. When that is done, we would create the necessary service order and send through to the metering department, who aids the debt collection in the disconnects and reconnects, and they will go out and do spot checks for us. And from time to time, we would initiate spot checks in the instances where persons would have been disconnected and we realize that nobody is coming to have a conversation, nothing is happening, and so we figure nobody likes to be without electricity, especially in a time like this when it's really hot. And so we would send out the necessary paperwork to have the spot checks done, and from time to time we do find persons that are illegally connected, and we deal with them accordingly. So my advice to persons would be, instead of going that route, come and have a conversation. It's nothing hard. Like I said, we're not trying to get into your business, but we're basically trying to ensure that you can get your power on and you can keep it on. That's what we're there for. So you can come in, have a conversation, and we will try our best. Once you are willing to adhere to certain things that we would like to put in place, then you can have your service. But don't go the illegal route. It doesn't make sense. It's costly.
Very
If
much
I could
so.
say something.
Certainly.
From the policing standpoint, it's interesting what they're saying. Sometimes you could have persons allowing it because of fear. They might have known it, and because of who the person is who connected unlawfully, they may not want to report. But I will say that, yes, the police is there to make a report of theft, but maybe when some persons SKELEC come, they will not be that rowdy in a sense. But however, there's something I want to say in terms of obstruction. Because I do believe sometimes when personnel from SKELEC go to address these matters, they met with a face reaction. So let us look under 40, section 40. Any person who obstructs any other person authorized by a public supplier to perform any of the supplier's powers, function, and duties under this act in the exercise or the performance of any such powers, function, or duties that by that other person, or B, by any electricity inspector in the exercise or performance of any of his powers, functions, or duties under this act, shall be liable to an offense and summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $2,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 month. So we are saying, I am saying here as the rep of the police force, and also a good partner with SKELEC as we address this thing. That persons, when you see these things, you report it to SKELEC, who can address it. Or if you want to report it to the police, who will investigate it and deal with it from under the act with these offenses in conjunction with SKELEC, you can do so. But we are saying persons, please let the persons from the SKELEC do their jobs, because remember we said first, safety and security where electricity supply is concerned. Not just to force you to pay, but we want safety and security there. And of course, SKELEC have to ensure that once you use their services, you pay the necessary compensation for that and avoid that. So once again, we're appealing to the persons to report, and persons who offend, stop offending and be a part of the process to ensure that safety and security maintains the electricity supply.
We would also like to ensure that persons are aware that they can call through anonymously. It's not like you're calling and saying, I'm Mary Ann and I'm calling because Peter Paul is out there, he has this going on, he has that going on. You're basically doing yourself and the company a favor by calling in. So you can do so anonymously. There's no fear that we're going to go out and tell the person, oh, Mary Ann said that you're doing this and you're doing that. That's not what we're here for. Because you don't know if the person is doing something and it causes a fire, how it will affect you.
Yes.
And how it will affect our lines. So therefore, just call in. We have no issues with you calling in. You can do so anonymously.
In saying that too, we have situations where persons not allowing us to come in on the property because they steal it. And sometimes when we do get in, what we are seeing is lines on the ground and you have kids. And that's not safe. You have wires join out and all these kinds of stuff, you know. So you have to look at the safety of the kids on the property. And when we see that, we ask the customer now, once you're disconnected and we caught you stealing, we're asking you to bring the meter outside. Relocate the meter.
As it should be, based on our metering standards. Yes, I wanted to, because the meter readers always ask me to give a plug. Somehow we feel that persons feel as though SKELEC don't have a right to their property. We have a right to be able to access our infrastructure and the meter. The law has stated this here, there is a fine for obstruction when you know that SKELEC is coming. And oftentimes, just when things are happening in the property that should not be happening, we get locked gates. We get people who set their dogs
next to the meter point.
Set their dogs on our employees. Sometimes threatening language, threatening behavior. We don't want to ever put our employees at risk. And that is why it was important to bring the police on the radio with us today to outline, and Superintendent David did such a good job with pinpointing the areas of the law that speaks to what can happen to you if you engage in tampering with our meter, stealing and obstructing us from entering the property to look at the meter and the infrastructure. So please remember, SKELEC is your energy partner, as Mr. Williams has mentioned before. We're not there to mind your business, but to ensure that the electricity is being accessed lawfully and safely.
Right. I just wanted to bring this to the fore. In 2020, we had 10 instances of discovered illegal connection. 2021 was 19. 2022 was 18. 2023 is 5. And 2024 so far is 20.
Wow.
And as I said, discovered, right? We will not lay any claims that we caught everything. But I will say to the public, in an effort to ensure that we deliver quality, safe, reliable power, we are making investment into being able to monitor what is happening on the network. And the primary reason is for the safe, quality delivery of the service to all. Okay? Myself and everyone in this room, we all have to contribute to the maintenance of the infrastructure by paying our bills. And to ensure that it lasts for the generation thereafter, I am going to say, and we will discourage any abstraction without authorization, because key to that authorization is safety.
Yes.
Safety to the persons, safety to yourself, and safety to your assets. So the numbers should be 0 in discovery and 0 in reality. So we encourage everybody to work with us as we work to deliver a quality service always.
Thank you, Colin. We are just about out of time. We're over time. But JQ is so nice. He lets me stay here for a little longer than I should. I hope your boss is not listening to the JQ. But colleagues, I'll give you one final opportunity to provide your parting words as we wrap up the program this morning. So I will start with Superintendent David this time and make our way down.
Okay, thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure to be here to represent my organization, lending support to SKELEC in terms of ensuring that obstructions are avoided or prevented, are totally eliminated in the first instance. And I would say that under the same Act too, that there's a provision under 17 for inspectors. And I realize it mentioned the police commissioner, and and SKELEC, all the suppliers can go and inspect. So whenever, so it doesn't have to be where somebody called. It could be just in case you suspect, you can go and inspect. So I encourage all and sundry, let us support our primarily electricity supplier so that they can continue to deliver good services to our federation. And you too, ensuring that your home and other areas are safe when it comes to lawful connections.
Thank you so much for being here this morning, Superintendent David. It was truly a pleasure to have you here to reinforce the law to our listeners. Thank you. Mr. Williams?
We are your energy partner. By and large, most of the circuits out there are shared. So it's not just you and SKELEC, it's you, SKELEC, and your neighbors. So what the neighbors do and what you do will affect those on that circuit. Let us be kind to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Walter?
And I will say, customers out there, do not steal electricity, because at the end of the day, it will cost you.
Very much so. It can cost you in different ways. Thank you for being here as well today, Mr. Walters.
You're welcome.
Okay, my little 2 cents is going to be kindly work with the SKELEC staff. It is our intention to provide you with the best possible service and customer service that we can. Allow the meter readers to do their bit by reading your meter. Remember that the meters are put there to bill you. They're the property of SKELEC. You're paying for the service. And also, once they can get accurate reads, we can bill you correctly, and we can ensure that we have an amicable relationship in all aspects. So please do what is necessary to help us as we help you.
Thank you, Isilma. Thank you, Miss Isaac. Thank you to all of my guests today for joining me on air for this edition of Power Talk. Remember, SKELEC is the nation's leading utility provider, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Be sure to follow us on social media, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our website, and also our newly launched WhatsApp channel in order for you to remain up to date on everything that SKELEC has happening. We'll see you again here next week, and we'll be having another set of rousing conversations. So thank you and bye bye.
We'll be right back.